María Camila, estás en mute.
Muy buenos días a todos y muy bienvenidos.
Good morning, everybody. About how we plan climate action in the cities. Elements to consider that which is our second. My name is Maria Caribe, that I'm the coordinator of Cities Networks of BID, and I would like to open up this space about the challenges and opportunities and the recommendations that are associated to climate change in the cities of the region. Before we initiate, we would like to tell you that this webinar is going to be in Spanish, but that you can listen to it both to English and Spanish, making use of the button that you have in the lower part so that we can select the language of your choice.
En caso de tener alguna pregunta para los panelistas, la pueden incluir en
If you have any questions for the panelists, you may include it in the Q&A section in Zoom. And also that the recording of this webinars, as well as other webinars, you may find it in the link of our chat in the IDP channel. As of next week, for all the ones that are joining us, this network, it's a regional platform network that wants to facilitate knowledge exchange, solutions, and good practices amongst cities in Latin and the Caribbean. Giving the multi-sectorial nature of urban development, the network generates opportunities for dialogue amongst the different stakeholders, private, academic, public, and more than 150 cities that are part of the region, as well as taking advantage of the different knowledge sectors of the bank. In this way, we wanted to contribute to the strength of leadership in urban management, the building of capacities, and also for the promotion of synergic work with allied institutions. Okay, so that you can make this part of your city, you can go to the link that we are including in the chat to be able to receive the information that we're permanently sending. Okay, before starting and before kicking off, I would just like to mention that we have already done the series of food safety that we started in June, and also the transport focused development in this one with climate action that we're doing now. We are going to have another series, which is the one of cities and health that we're going to initiate in October to be able to participate in topics that we've covered in the sustainable cities platform. Okay, complementing on today's series and the series of climate action in cities, I would also like to invite you, if you are interested in downloading the publication of BID Climate Change and the Paris Agreement, the role of cities in Latin and the Caribbean, that wants to support the cities and all the different actors to understand the challenges of climate change and how to strengthen the topics of sustainable development, and also the environment that has been built to increase to the multi-level coordination, the coordination amongst the different government levels, and to include the commitments of local governments towards the goal of global and local climate challenges. This is the publication that is available for whoever might be interested. And okay, this webinar that it's part of the series of the complete series of climate change in cities. I would like to remind you that the prior webinar that was on September 20th and was the first webinar in the series that it's in the channel, where we wanted to cover how climate change it's challenging our cities and how the different alternatives local governments are exploring to face this. Today, we're going to focus on the relevance of climate action, and next Friday, we're going to talk about the implementation that is taking place in the cities and the region. Okay, without further ado, let's start talking about today's webinars about the development of climate action in the cities. It's an essential process to be able to cover and face climate change. The key elements for the planning of climate action includes from the development of clear diagnosis and the establishment of goals, as well as how to cover the resilience to climate risks. This is something that covers inclusivity elements, also social benefits, environmental benefits, economic benefits, as well as the establishment of a governance structures and a clear structure for the compliance with established goals. To be able to do this, we need to plan. We need to plan the actions that we're going to do so that this is going to be based on science and also in the best elements and tools that we may have to measure them. This means that the cities are able to understand and to know in a very detailed manner the emissions of greenhouse gases in their cities. It's necessary to measure the greenhouse gases, and this is able to obtain about very precise inventories that give us data to be able to establish what are the goals for the reduction of emissions and to assess the process throughout the time. During today's sessions, we're going to explore the challenges and opportunities that cities face to include climate actions in their urban planning through very practical cases. And we're going to listen to Clay, to the Argentina Workbook for Climate Change, and also we are going to have a very clear planning based in creating a planning that it's based in contributing to climate change. That's why the participants that accompany us today, I already mentioned the organizations that we are going to have. We're going to have ICLAY, and we're also going to have the Argentinian network. And we have Alejandro Gonzalez, who is the director of ICLAY Colombia. And we also have Director Ricardo Betolino, who is the executive director of municipalities regarding climate change, and also president of the Civil Network for Climate Change, Clementine Tribolat, is going to moderate. She's a senior specialist of the Household and Development Division sector of the bank. She is our colleague. And later on in the discussion, we're going to cover key topics about the challenges and opportunities that this means for the cities, listening to the leaders of the city. And here we're going to have Juan Carlos Cárdenas, who is the mayor of Bucaramanga, and also Cicero Lucena, who is the mayor of João Pessoa in Brazil. And Bucaramanga is in Colombia, and João Pessoa is in Brazil. And we do hope to have a very fruitful discussion today about them. I would also like that we go to be able to know a little bit about you who are here with us, and that you can tell us what sector do you belong to. And now today it's a key, given that we are going to talk about climate action, that it's also that they tell us where do they live. Therefore, the first thing, what we're going to go to the public sector, local, private sector, civil society, academia, NGOs, and also to invite you to scan the Mentimeter in the screen so that you can tell us a little bit, and we are able to know with a lot of clarity, and also that our panelists know the way they can answer your questions. And okay, please scan, and also to be a very proactive part of this webinar, not only from this side, but also that you can tell us a bit about you. Let's go to the next questions. What city you are? Can you please tell us where you're from? The Mentimeter. Where are you from? What city are you at? What city are you connected from?
Bueno, parecen de muchas partes de América Latina.
Okay.
Brasil, Colombia, Perú, Barcelona. Bueno, muy interesante.
Okay, very interesting to know that there are so many we have so many people from so different places and that we can learn from the experience of all. Now, without further ado, I would like to ask you a question to start, and it's if your city has a climate action plan. Do you know if your city has a climate action plan? And does it have one? It doesn't. You don't know.
Wow. Bueno, pues vamos a escuchar la importancia que tiene la planeación.
Okay, we're going to talk about the importance of planning and why do we need to have a climate action plan and what can it be useful. Okay, without these answers, without further ado, I would like to give the floor and the most warmest welcome to Clementine, who is a specialist in the household and urban development sector, and she's going to be our moderator. Thank you, Clementine, for being here. Okay, thank you, Maria Camila. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your invitation. Well, before all, I would like to welcome everybody to our webinar about how to plan climate action in cities. And my name is Clementine, and I'm a specialist in household and urban development in IADB. And I'm talking to you from Brazil. And how Maria Camila well said, today we're going to have 3 moments in our webinar. And first of all, we're going to have the presentation of specific cases where the where the Argentinian municipality of Argentina and also Clay in Colombia is going to tell us about the relevance of having a climate action plan that it's science based and that it's based on detailed diagnosis. The inventory of the greenhouse to be able to guide the planning of the cities. And there we're going to talk about some of the key elements of the plans that Maria Camila mentioned as the goals for the neutrality of emissions, the adaptation and resilience regarding climate risks, and also the participation of the community and also the governance structure of these plans amongst all. And okay, in a second moment, we're going to talk about the challenges that the leaders of the cities face when planning climate actions. And through a talk with the mayor of Manga in Colombia, where it was recently approved a greenhouse gas inventory, and also the mayor of Montessori in Brazil, where we recently approved the municipal plan for climate action, in both cases with the support of the IADB. In the third moment, we are going to have a space to be able to answer some of your questions. Okay, this is a little bit our plan for today. And without further ado, I'm going to give the word to our first guest, which is Ricardo Bertolino, who is the executive director of the REMCCC with his Argentinian networks of municipalities against climate action. And he's also the president of the civil association's Red de Acción Climática. Ricardo, please, it's a pleasure having you here. Okay, Clementina, hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for this invitation, where I see that the number of attendees, it's amazing. And okay, we can see people from so many cities. Thank you so much. Shall I start?
Sí, Ricardo, adelante. The floor is yours.
Okay, I would like to tell you in this 12 minutes that I have. In this 12 minutes, I would like to tell you what we do from the Argentinian network of municipalities regarding climate change. And okay, basically, we are a network. We are a network that started 13 years ago, and that came and that this came up from two small municipalities in the country. And today we are present. I mean, today we have 281 municipalities that are part of the network that work in a very coordinated manner. And okay, we are part of the Global Pact of Mayors and the Argentinian network. It's the national coordinator of the Global Pact of Mayors. That's why we share a common methodology to all the municipalities in the world. And not all the 281 municipalities are part of the Global Pact, because in Argentina we have decided that to be part of the pact, the municipality needs to have a greenhouse gases inventory that it done. That's why, in this sense, we are very demanding regarding the pacting and regarding the active participation in the Global Mayors Pact. We have a series of partners that we've been thinking it together, that we've been thinking together, and the network has an executive secretariat that works together. We are 30 professionals that that are hosted in the city of Rosario, where we accompanied more than 280 municipalities in the helping them in their planning for climate action. And we have a big number of partners from the Portugal Energy Network, also Swedish networks. It's well, we have different organizations that accompany us in this process. That I insist, I can say that the climate action is funded by each municipality that pays a membership, but the partners help us to complement the resources that the municipalities grant to the topic of climate planning. And as I said, there are municipalities that for the last 13 years, that's why they've gone through a lot of processes, as they keep on actively participating in the network, and they've assumed the climate planning as one of the access for municipal planning. Okay, for municipal planning, it sometimes become a bit challenging. Having the framework of the carbon neutrality, we accompany with a series of specific programs for the climate planning. That, for example, it's the campaign of recovered residues. Each municipality, it's going to starts registering how many trees are planted. For example, last year we planted thousands of trees. They add up, and we keep on adding all the trees that are planted in each municipality. And in this way, we're able to get some companies to fund the trees so that the municipalities can use them. Then we have permanent training campaigns in all the topics. Right now, we are launching, next month, we're going to be launching a campaign. We're going to be launching a training, a 4 weeks of training, and everything that it's associated with the preparation for the heat waves that we know that they're going to be much more intense worldwide. Talking about climate refugees, all of these are trainings that the municipalities can provide to other municipalities, and we don't have national events. We look, for example, from abroad, like in this one that we are going to use. We have all this information that and also for the climate, we think that it's essential to include the private sector. And that's why we've developed the carbon print in the private sector, and that we call ALPA. And this is done by the network of municipalities, but 20% of what we charge the private sector, it's invested in municipal works. And that's why not only do we accompany the carbon neutrality of the municipalities, we include the private sector so that it reduces its emissions and it funds municipal works. As we can see, solar panels in homes and in elderly homes, and the tricycles for informal recyclers. We work with hospitals, and all of this is going to be funded as part of climate, and also the private sector, it's the one that funds. Then we have a network of 510 green entrepreneurs that have a seal for carbon neutrality, and that we want them to be the ones that are the suppliers for these municipalities. That's why we are working in sustainable public procurement, trying to buy local procurement based on municipal regulations. And we also work in everything that we talk about international partnership. And okay, what planning we have a document in each municipality has the possibility to do their climatic planning. Not all of them have completed their climatic planning, but I think it's more than 100 that have been able to do some planning, that have assessed and have done a follow-up of more than 8, 9 years, where each day they have their inventory and they start to see how they reduce their greenhouse emissions in comparison to last year's, but also using the baseline year, which is the first year in which they do the climate planning. And over here, we established the guideline where they needed to work in the increasing resilience, and that are going to be assessed at the end of the year. These actions, these planning actions, each of them will have the impact that it's going to cause in the reduction of the greenhouse gases, and also in the increase of resilience. As you know, we work into two pathways. We have two teams inside the office. We have the office that works on the topic of mitigation, and that works in the area of adaptation.
On the subject of mitigation, we basically work with inventories, both in mobility, waste, and the 6 subjects or sectors that were set by the methodology, which we design and define with local actors. I have to clarify that we perform training weekly, and we call municipalities and ask them how they're going and how their planning is going along. We contact them virtually and permanently with each of the municipalities that are creating their climate planning. And our function is to train a local manager, so who can then the next year perform this work with a lot less coordination with us, so as to manage the greenhouse gases and planning and climate planning by themselves. We take measures from the base years, not we take the base as the first year of action of the previous years, and then we make the projections to 2030. So if we see the inventory for this year, everything done previously is not included in the climate planning, and they have time to create both public or private initiatives. Here we have what we need to do. In the base year, first, we have to make to assess what would happen if the municipality does nothing and what would be the result in 2030. We work on this together, and within each of the sectors, we see what would be the greenhouse gas emissions if they didn't do anything of the planned activities. This is an inventory presented in a basis scenario. On the other hand, if we set emissions in a science-based goal that aligns with the Paris Agreement, in order to limit temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and if the city applies certain measures for each sector, and this is what we work on with municipalities. So they say, I'm going to put this, I'm going to plant these trees or take these measures. I'm going to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in this way, and so they organize the numbers of the climate planning. It is key to move forward in this implementation and to further align every year, at least in the case of Argentina. I know that but I know the energy matrix changes in every country, so we need to adapt and change each year. And for this, we have a team in our office, and this team provides this information and updates all emission factors for each of the actions carried out by each municipality. In the second subject, adaptation, We analyze the vulnerabilities at the social and economic levels, all georeferenced with maps that are obtained via different software provided by different international organisms, and we set out the trends of temperature increases, of rainfall, and this is a very important work for municipalities because they can then make a future decisions so as to know where are the flood zones, which communities will be most affected, and where they need to be resettled or settled. How to measure the night temperature to avoid heart attacks and so on. So these are all actions that we carry out in conjunction with municipalities, and we invite all sectors of the municipality. The health sector is always going to be there because due to the affectation to most vulnerable sectors, public works have to be uh, jointly planned with this uh, climate planning. And here, as we see in the graph, we have the measurement of the greatest risks regarding climate phenomena of low to high impact for in vulnerable populations. And as you see in these graphs, we can define where we have to focus in the municipality's territory, our investments and action. All of this is key and fundamental, as well as to redirect municipality budgets. And we are very glad to see that the municipality budgets actually greatly respect this climate planning, although the money most likely was directed to building a football court, for example, and now it is being used for climate action and to change to find water reservoirs for in case of potential flooding, as an example. So the results of climate planning are extremely interesting for us, and noteworthy item is that through the years we have seen the number of municipalities grow in their climate planning. We have interventions across the country. The governments change in the municipality in the 281. About 80% will change mayor or figurehead. And we see that the new mayors, whether or not they are of the same or different party, they present their climate planning. And we see that large number of municipalities who are going to come into the project because they understand the importance of this initiative. So we see that new authorities are younger with an agenda that is a lot closer to the climate agenda than that of their predecessors. Here we have an analysis of the planned actions at the local level and in what conditions the city is. All of these documents are all of 120 pages with an exhaustive analysis that reviews each year in most municipalities with 2 years at the most, and they are uploaded to international platforms to be validated by mayors. We help municipal teams to create these projects and so to present them internationally. And then those international platforms and organs provide the seals of approval for each of the aspects covered in the documents. So that's why there is an international knowledge about what is being carried out. We have more and more municipalities that value these certifications and thus empowers them to receive external financing. This is one of the biggest problems our local governments tend to have here in Argentina. So to sum up, what we do is accompany local governments in this planning process, and then alongside them, we help them execute the tree planting, the, uh, the percentage of recycling, adaptation related works, reforestation training, training that is not theoretical, but provided by successful municipalities who can show how to solve several problems. Then we monitor and to update and see how in some subjects there was advances and in some others there weren't. So as to have an updated plan for the next year for that municipality. This is a very intense work carried out by the municipalities. Not all of them. We have municipalities with 1,000 people, as well as cities with millions of people. Cities who are in mountain ranges, or at the sea, or at the north, or south, with a tropical weather, or, or near Antarctica. So we need to find the the relation. We need to see the relationship between the environment and the population type and the resources they have, and the planning is very different from one to the other. Since we are a network, we work permanently and together. The directors of the network actually is chosen every year at an assembly of 40 mayors who are the board of directors who provides who then works with the secretary to decide how to move forward. So now, again, we have 281 municipalities currently committed and working with climate planning. We have the calculated emissions here, and we are also working with municipalities in Uruguay, the cities of Rivera, Chile, Monte. We have created the plans of 5 municipalities in Paraguay. We have worked with also in Panama, and with our experience in Argentina, has worked to help us accompany other country governments to advance and create and use our experience. We have received delegations from Peru and other regions who have come here to see how we can work jointly as a community of municipalities. We have been able to move forward in climate planning and have achieved great results. I tried to rush through a little bit. I did everything I could. I hope this was comprehensive enough. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Ricardo,
Gracias por tu
for
presentación.
your
Muy
presentation. Extremely interesting
bastante
to see
consolidada, ¿no?
this
En
very
las
consolidated
experiencias
experience
y
during
la
12
audiencia
years
acá
at a large
muy
scale.
valiosos. Muchas
It
gracias.
is very valuable.
Ahora
Thank you
nos
so
tomó
much.
que viajamos un
Now,
poquito desde Argentina para
now
Colombia y bueno,
let's
vamos
take a
a
plane from
recibir
Argentina
el
to Colombia
invitado
so we can
Alejandro
receive
González,
our next
que es
guest,
director
Alejandro
de
González,
Clay
who is the
Colombia.
Clay Colombia
Alejandro,
head.
bienvenido.
Welcome,
La palabra
Alejandro.
es tuya.
You have the
Muchas
floor.
gracias.
Thank you.
Clementín, muchas gracias. Muy buenos días para
Thank you, Clementine. Good day, good afternoon to everyone who's with us today. It is a pleasure for me to share some of the learning we achieved and all over Latin America, but in particular, presenting some cases that we recently saw and developed in Colombia in all kinds of cities. And that is the opening message. We are a network of, we're a global network of 2,500 local and regional governments committed to sustainable urban development. So we work from the smallest municipalities with 5,000 populations to the capital cities. And we can do this because we are across the world, all over the world, and we should see that we have a central secretariat in Mexico and one in Sao Paulo, the South America. And there is two sister offices in Argentina, Rosario, and in Medellin, Colombia. I would like to tell you some initial messages. We are used to the classical urban planning, which has focused in economic growth and in infrastructure building. And that is necessary, but it's not enough for what we need to cover today. So now, a, a changing and sustainable urban planning has to focus on other aspects that complement these classical visions. And that is where our perspective to work on 5 roads helps us face the issues that we have today, and how to plan ahead for climate realities. So we have the four, we have low carbon, nature-based, equitable and people-focused, resilient and circular. How can we join all of this? How can we join this to climate conformity? I like to think about this as a process of a capacity building process. When you want to build capacities, you don't start at the end. We have many times noticed that in some cities, many cities, they start in the plan, and the plan is key, but the planning process starts from way before, and we would like to center on the previous steps, and that is a key message for all cities that are listening to us. The inventory of greenhouse gas emissions and the analysis of risk of climate risk and vulnerabilities are key. Without these two instruments, it is you can probably make a plan, but it's not going to really answer to all the needs of each territory. I'm going to show you some examples that we built with many partners all across Latin America, and particularly here in Colombia, who have helped us understand this dynamic and to accompany it, assess it on field, and work with with government officials, as well as with the academy and the private sector. In the last few years, we have performed several inventories. We just finished a company with an IDB and the Association of Capitals of Colombia, 6 inventories in total. We are going to present some results for Barranquilla, Bucaramanga, Leticia, Pasto, Quibdó, and Yopal. I'm going to present these results just for you to see how comparing the results between each city, we see different focuses that lead us to prioritizing different measures. Let's see, some. We have the city of Yopal. It has a little over 180,000 inhabitants, and the results of the greenhouse gas inventory, as you can see, is that there is a predominance of the agriculture and forestry, and other emission elements are transport, because this is an intermediate size medium. Another city, Bucaramanga, of which the mayor is going to join us, who is a great partner of ours. You see, the graph is completely different, which is so economically dynamic, and a metropolitan population that is over 1 million people. The transport sector is the main one. Then we have stationary energy, and then solid and liquid waste. So the generation of greenhouse gases is completely different to Yopal's. And then we have the city of Leticia in the Amazon, with a little over 50,000 people at the heart of the Colombian Amazon, and it is actually the limit with our neighbors. And again, it changes completely the greenhouse gas generation pattern. In this particular city, sadly, in the last few years, deforestation is sadly the biggest reason, and then followed by the agriculture sector. So very short, very quickly, you see 3 greenhouse gas emission inventory that gives us a different perspective and different analysis elements for decision making and to create the climate plan action. So it is very important to know what are the national policies and commitments, and we need to see what are the effects or the amount of greenhouse gases generated we are going to see in particular in each city. Then, now more focus on adaptation, which is the climate risk and vulnerability analysis. This is not as known, and many cities skip this because they don't think it's necessary. But our most recent experience with these 6 cities, as we had the support of the British government, helped us create a series of analysis and information that the greenhouse gas inventories didn't provide. They just give us, that just gives us data. But this, we see climate vulnerability. We're going to present the maps of Monteria, as we see here, a little over 500,000 people, just to see that all of these instruments are applied to all kinds of cities. And here in this graph, as we saw in the graphs, we see food security with the drought risk. So we have within a city, and both in the urban and rural area, we see which are the vulnerabilities for each of drought versus food security. So we see the importance of correlating these variables to assess the risk. And now we have infrastructure related or correlated with flooding risk. You can see to the center at the orange and red area, which is the most urban area of the city, that gives us that in the urban area there is a large risk for flooding, and that has consequences on the decisions or prioritization that we have for Monteria.
Risk analysis have to be complemented from a biodiversity perspective. And this is, for example, like a city for Pereira, that it's intermediate. And it's something that allows us to understand to these type of instruments that have something very interesting, that they correlate the much more advanced technical informations, but also by the information that it's provided by the communities and citizens, and allows us to visualize what are the potentiality, the natural richness that a territory must have, and also that climate planning responds to that richness that we have. And okay, to take us to a fundamental reflection, which is the graph of Bucaramanga, which is the main ecological structure, to be able to understand that, to be able to have it included in the climate planning process. It's going to help us so that the perspectives of nature-based solutions contribute to two main aspects: to mitigate climate change and also to protect our biodiversity. And that's why the two topics have to be seen in a very integrated and coordinated manner. And this is something that should be reflected in the climate action plans. And okay, and also to highlight, to finish off this presentations, I've presented two main tools, which is the greenhouse gases inventory, and also the analysis of risks and vulnerability, which are essential to take us to the moment in which we're going to build a plan. We can build a plan without these two tools, instruments. Of course we can. We're going to be able to serve the priorities that the citizens should have regarding climate change. And we think that, yes, they build that capacity, that they understand that the planning process is a permanent and continuous process for the generation of capacity inside the public administrations, but in the whole society as a whole, and that this allows that the plan responds to those needs, and it's able to prioritize what are going to be the elements, the projects, and the actions that should be under the magnifying glass of the different governments. This is what we wanted to share, and we are open for any question you may have. And that's why thank you so much. And I think that your presentation, it's very clear about this complementary about adaptation, both in the effect but both in the diagnosis and also for the planning. And it's a very interesting about this transversal of biodiversity. And thank you so much once again. And okay, I propose now, because that's going to talk about the specific challenges of local leaders in the climate planning, and with the participation of Mr. Juan Carlos Cárdenas, which is the mayor of Bucaramanga in Colombia. And that's why Cicero Lucena, who is the mayor of João Pessoa in the northeastern part of Brazil. Welcome both, and it's a pleasure having you here. And if you allow me, I'm going to start with our questions. And my first question is going to be focused to Mr. Cárdenas. Major, we do know that very soon, and not long ago, Bucaramanga has worked in the development of an inventory of greenhouse gases in the city, something which is not isolated. It's a continuation of the work that's been done by the city to promote sustainability and to be able to have a climate environment solid environmental policy. I would like to know if you can please tell us why is this inventory so important? What is the information that it launches, and what are the planning measures that are based on this? Clementine, thank you so much for this space, and okay, I would like to agree to Cicero and all the IDB officers, ASO Capitales. And also I can see that we have more than 600 people working in this webinar, and congrats. I think that this is, and okay, regarding the question, Clementine, I would like that before giving you a very specific response, I would like to share that all of us, and something that I think it's relevant, and I think that everything that we develop in terms in everything that it's associated to the mitigation, the adaptation, I think that we all need to have as a reference that this is an agenda that contributes to reduce inequality in our territories. And this is very important, not only to reduce quality, but also to helps us to strengthen our democracies and to contribute in the peace in our territories, because what it's real, it's that the ones that are affected by climate change are associated to a vulnerable population. And okay, after sharing this reflection with all of you, I would like to tell you that yes, we do work with IDB, with ASO Capitales, with ICLEI, and we just have this inventory of greenhouse gas effects. And where we have this register for the equivalent tons per capita, although they are low and very below the worldwide average. That doesn't mean that, and we don't have to take decisions because with this way we are able to see, and I think that Alejandro well said that, and where currently your energy it's from fossils, and in what way we are covering a definite solution doing the transition. For there is a very big where are the resources to be able to have a goal that it's planted by government Ivan Duque, where there is an agreement to be able to achieve some specific goals for the year 2030. And okay, in this year with this inventory, we're able to know we know that the massive public transformation is a big challenge. We also need, we need to see what it's the use of energy in institutional buildings and households, and we already started, and we began to develop solar panels in the institutional business as a way to be able to start to set a pathway to be able to solve or to continue to the reductions of greenhouse gas effects. Another thing of this inventory has allowed us to understand that everything that is associated to solid waste, it's something that it has to be a priority to be able to get to those goals that have been traced for the year 2030. And regarding to what we talk about residual waters, I would say that most of less 90% of the water, it's not treated in the metropolitan area. And the good news, it's that we have included the resources in the national plan of the new government of President Gustavo Petro, so that we can board this in the same way with solid waste. We've advanced in strengthening everything that it means, which is another of the goals that increase the CO2 regarding to taking advantage of solid and also the organic ways that we talk that we use about compost. There's a very important guideline for this, and also mentioning what we did with the claim and all the team. We already have the study that it's associated to resilient solution based in nature, that it's also very important. And from that study, we've been able to establish a series of actions that are associated to recover green areas and areas that are nearby the city. We've been able to develop the tree census. Just to tell you something very important, that although we initiated in the government, we didn't have a lot of information. Now Bucaramanga can say with absolute clarity that we do have the information that is required for planning. And as part of these studies, we are able to do something that is very important, which is a tree census. We developed a tree census and also a manual. But with a city that, although concerns us, it allows us to establish an action line, which is that 70% of the trees are non-native, and almost 80% are trees that have a disease. Okay, this information allows us to move forward in something that in the city and that in the story of the city was abandoned, because we've never considered resources for this. But now we have a path to be able to recover all our trees, all our native trees, to be able to recover the ecosystem and improve the climate conditions of the cities. I would sum up that with something that is very important as our cities strengthen the information in terms of the greenhouse gases, inventories, everything associated to our ecosystem. Well, definitely this is going to be help us to develop our guideline that allows us to establish the resources, either owned resource, either the national resources, international cooperation resources, but that the citizens can't be aware of the commitments that we need to develop moving forward, and to be able to have sustainable territories, and to be able to contribute everything that is related to the climate action agenda. And I repeat that they contributed to reduce the inequality in our territories, and to strengthen our democracies, and to generate peace territories. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your answer. Okay, I'm going to focus my second question. It's going to be by Dr. Lucera. In the case of Chaupeso, we can say that the municipality just launched their municipal plan for climate action that defines goals and guidelines both for decarbonization as well as for resilience, based on an inventory of the greenhouse gases, a hydric, a water print, and also an analysis for risk and the climate vulnerabilities. We know it's been a long pathway, and we would like if you could please tell us what has been the key information to be able to move forward with this plan, and how have you prioritized the goals and the challenges for the mitigation for the city? Please. Okay, thank you so much. I would like to welcome you and all the attendees, and that it's a pleasure to be here participating in this moment in something that it's associated to the future of the cities. And we also need to contribute to be able to fulfill those goals. Our development with the climate action plan has been a very challenging process. The truth is, and it's also crucial to be able to ensure the sustainability and the resilience of our cities. But before that, the truth is that we gather very valuable information from different sources. Well, first of all, we did an inventory of the greenhouse effect classes in pessoa to transportation contributes to this. Within this inventory is going to allow us to understand the main sources of emissions in our city, which was essential to be able to identify the areas where we could reduce our carbon print. Okay, this analysis of